Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Listening Mentor. And our topic is the power of the pause. Ooh. We are celebrating an anniversary here today as well. We'll find out more about that from the star of our show. She's the Harley Street stress expert. Her name is Caroline Heward. Let's welcome her. Hello. Woo. Woo. Well, happy anniversary. You informed me this is a very special day. Tell us more.
It is. 2 years ago today, I was invited to do an interview, which was supposed to have been 20 minutes, landed up being an hour. And at the end of that interview on 7/7/2021, Dr. JACALYN, you yourself, the incredible, amazing Dr. JACALYN, you invited me to be part of the expert team. And here I am 2 years later, still serving. And I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here as well. Thank you. You know, it's amazing, Caroline, and you know, as a therapist and somebody who's helping people bust their stress, theme song coming soon, is that we have talents sometimes that we're not even aware of. And when I was in corporate, I didn't really feel very valuable in a number of ways. My job was in sales. I had a great job. I'm not saying anything about it, but it was numbers. It was numbers. Get the numbers, post the numbers, bring in the business. And since I left in 2020, I've tapped into my creative side. And why I'm bringing this up is because I feel now that I see things in people. I see things in people that we're a good fit and that they have something that's of a global perspective and a global value to bring. And I saw that in you. And so together we've been doing this show, and I just throw all kinds of things at you. There's no preparation. You have no idea what I'm going to ask, because I have no idea what I'm going to ask you. And every time you bring so much value, and I really admire you for that. You're also one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads, and that's a lot of work. And the topics that you cover, they're layers. They're very, very deep. I don't know if to tell you. And so I just admire you for your tenacity, your professionalism, and for taking the time that you could be with clients and coming here and sharing your knowledge and expertise. So I honor you for that. Thank you.
I want to say thank you back by saying I didn't know I could do so much until you opened me up. I feel like I've been a can that's been opened up and it's all coming out, and there's so much more. And I keep thinking I'm not going to be able to do that, and then something else comes up. It's amazing. I've grown so much being with you in this channel over the last 2 years. It's quite exponential, an incredible journey.
Thank you, Caroline. And you know, I know we're not on the topic that we're going to be discussing, but I just have to thank you also because I looked at the numbers last night for the YouTube channel, and we've got people working on it, experts, search engine optimization experts. And last year we had 200 and some thousand views for the year, which I thought was a big number. And now we're almost at 500,000 views up until July. So and we also have over 5,000 shows that we have created here on this platform on YouTube. So a huge shout out to you and all of our team members and our guests and the people following us, the people subscribing to us. We love you, whatever platform you're on, whether it's Facebook. We also have a team of people who are working on our Facebook pages for optimization. So LinkedIn, we love you as well. We're not doing anything over there, but we love you anyway. And also Twitter, we're not doing anything there, but we love our fans from there. So Caroline, before we get into the topic, the power of the pause, do tell people about how you help them bust their stress. And also, I think it's important. Sometimes people, they're just like in a robotic zombie mode, and they don't even know that they're under stress until something happens. It's an eye opener. It's, wow, I didn't even realize how uptight I was.
Well, thank you. What I do is I help you with busting your symptoms. So usually people reach out to me and say, I can't sleep, or I ache and pain. I've got severe pain in my low back or neck pain, or they might have relationship issues, or there might be a bereavement issue that they're not coping with. So whatever it is, that's what you're complaining about. That's how I like to look at it. So if you're complaining about something, someone, an ache and pain, that is actually your stress talking to you. That is how your body is communicating that it's out of balance. And that symptom, when you present it to me, I identify the root cause, what the initial presenting issue is that you didn't handle. It could be way back as in childhood. And it literally alleviates all the stress and the tension, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, or behavioral, and you will feel lighter, better. You get incredible sleep, and it's just like a weight lifts off your shoulders. And I can do it really quickly. I do a free consultation, either on Zoom, Skype, or if you're camera shy, over a call, audio call. And that literally looks at one symptom. But I love doing the work that I do primarily because it literally busts your stress.
And we laugh on A Woman's Prerogative, where Caroline's also one of our panelists, about a song, Bust Your Stress. People could relate to that. That seriously could be a jingle. So let's get with Dr. Madeline Chan and Songs for You and make that happen. All right, today's topic is the power of the pause. And if you're joining us for the first time, whether it's on the live or the replay, this show is all about relationship skills, listening skills, communication skills. We've looked at role plays, we've had various scenarios. And so the power of the pause is important for many reasons. I'll just share one and then I'll have you comment or share another, Caroline. So many times people will purposefully pause, and the other person gets uncomfortable. There's a period of time where you're not saying anything, and the other person is, what's going on? Did they pass out? Why is it that we feel the need to fill every single second with words?
Well, this is the fear of being seen or heard. And essentially, when there is a silence, it's uncomfortable for some people to sit in that silence. And so what we do is we push forward to fill the silence. And this is one of the skills of a counselor, of a really good therapist, that they will pause, give you a silent moment, because it's not so easy to recollect everything you want to say. And sometimes it's important to take that break, that breath, so that you can come back with a more discerning answer. And also, when somebody gives you silence, it sometimes gives you the opportunity to take a step back, to reflect, and then to speak, instead of just responding and reacting instantly with our words.
Absolutely. Great answer. I also feel that the power of the pause can be used as a negotiation tool. So if you're comfortable being the one who is giving the pause and just not reacting at all to the other person's discomfort, that can be empowering, can't it?
Oh, yes, because they want to fill it. They're waiting for you to say something. You haven't said something. And so then the person is pushed into thinking and responding in terms of the fact that they've got an open floor space. It's very challenging for some people because they don't like silences, they don't like pauses. And sometimes some people love the pauses and the silence because it gives them an internal space to reflect and ponder. If we just respond straight away, and when the person has given you a pause, it also forces you to go into a pause. And then it gives you that moment. It could be a few seconds, but that few seconds to almost evaluate and then come forward, rather than feeling that you have to rush into responding straight away.
I completely agree with you. And I know myself as a certified coach, I will speak with my clients and set up the coaching session. And I'll say, I will ask you a question and I will wait for you to respond. And I will not say anything. I will be looking at you and I'm going to wait until you are finished speaking. And that's, I think, a powerful tool that we can all learn, which is when someone is about to say something profound, we immediately jump in and we cut them off. And then that thought could be lost forever.
We call it the pregnant pause. Literally the stop, the pregnancy of the pause, because it's so unusual. We're usually going, da, 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 you know, and like really, really at 10 to the dozen. But when we give that pregnant pause, which is what the British call it, I don't know, the Americans do the same, it stops everybody and it forces you to reflect and stop and be in that moment to respond from that moment's space.
It's so true. And, you know, we're talking about conversations or negotiations, but it's also helpful sometimes to take a pause in a relationship. And that can be a very frightening thing for someone. If I am in a relationship with you, even as friends, and I say, Caroline, I think we need to take a break. Wow. Panic, right? Panic sets in. What do you mean take a break? What's happened? What did I do? Where are you going? When are we getting back together? Blah, blah, blah. But sometimes when the two people do take a pause, a lot of good can come from it. Maybe it ends up that you're not friends, you're not in a relationship, or maybe you come back and you're going to be even closer. What have you found as a therapist?
I would totally agree with that. Sometimes friends take a break without actually saying anything because they need time to sort out things, to do things. A friendship or relationship doesn't necessarily mean you have to be with that person 24/7 and you need to hear from that person every week, every month. It could be that there's things that overtake them and time that they're reflecting and doing things. Like I've just bought my property, it's taken a lot of my time, and you wouldn't have the normal amounts of time because you're focused on a bigger task. And then when you come back, you've done what you need to do and you're much more fully present with the other person. So sometimes people do take a pause, a break without saying anything. And that also is important to understand that it might be that there's something going on in their world and it's nothing to do with you and you haven't done anything wrong. And at the same time, if somebody says, we need to take a break, it could just be that there's a lot of things going on in their life.
Well, you know, thank you. I agree with you. I think the one thing that has always kind of set me back a little is when there's no conversation about taking a break. It's just, they're slowly gone. There's no more calls. There's no more messages. They just disappear. And what I'll say to myself is, they really haven't disappeared. You know, you could go and find them, physically drive, fly, whatever it might take to find where they are, unless some extreme circumstance. But they've just decided to separate for whatever reason. And we always think it's because of us, because we've done something wrong. And that might not be the case at all.
Absolutely. I've had just such a situation where I was quite worried about a very dear friend and I hadn't heard from them since February. And I was starting to get really worried. And I called on WhatsApp because it was an international call. And it was said unavailable. And then I started to get really worried. I wondered whether they were in hospital or something had happened to them. And I just thought, and I sent a message saying, please just let me know that you're okay. And then we landed up in a conversation, a long conversation, where they told me that they weren't okay, that things were difficult, and they'd had a very stressful time, and they were still handling it. And I knew it was nothing to do with me. I knew the silence wasn't anything that I'd done or said. I knew there must be something that they were handling in their world. And so it's really important to hold that, to never think that there's something that you've done, that they could be so busy handling something in their own life and almost isolating themselves from everything and everyone until they've handled it.
Yes. And I think to your point, it's also, in my experience, that you're in different places, not you and this person, but people end up in different places in their life. And to have the conversation about why it is that they've moved on could bring up a lot of pain and could possibly diminish the strength that they had to walk away in the first place so that they could do whatever it is they had to do.
There's many reasons. It could be illness, it could be finances, it could be something going on in their family, there could be a bereavement. And if you don't know, you don't know. And so I always feel it's important to kind of check in with yourself. Is there anything there that you feel that went wrong, that, you know, and if you can hand on heart say there's nothing that you've done and you don't feel there is, then allow that person the space that they need to do whatever they need to do, because they will come back. When we get caught up in challenges, we don't realize how much time we take dealing with them, and then we come back and we're better because we took the space we needed. And that's important to honor when people need the space, to give it to them.
Yes, yes, definitely. And I have a question for you based on what I'm going to share. So I have decided in the last, I'm going to say last 2 years since the pandemic, that if someone has moved away or they've moved on, and maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't, I've decided I'm not reaching out. And I'm not reaching out because if you were friends with somebody for a long time and then all of a sudden, let's say they unsubscribe from your newsletter, which has happened to me, or they know where you are because I'm in the same place. I haven't gone anywhere, but they've decided to move on for whatever reason. I've decided not to reach out and contact people because I respect the fact I don't know what the reason is, and I don't really want to go into whatever the reason is. They were in my life for this period of time, and that was great. And now they've moved on. I've moved on. But my question for you is, when you have moved on, and it could be years later, and then the person reaches out to you out of nowhere, that does happen. Do you let them back in, or because the door's closed? And when I say close, I just want to be clear. To me, close means that you could see their name pop up on your phone and you don't go, oh, I can't, like any feeling. There's just nothing there. You don't feel any anger. You don't feel any love. You close the door and it stayed closed. But now they sent a little card underneath the door.
I'm always open to that. When people do that, you know, I just say, oh, hi, you know, how are you? What's been going on? How are you? And sometimes it's as if no time passed. And then you find out that there's been something that they've been having to handle in their world, like a bereavement or a marriage upset or a failure or something that's happened in their life, a job change. They could have lost their job, lost their finances. All sorts of things can happen. And so, you know, I just allow that space because, you know, we're all going through our own healing journeys and our own world challenges. And so I'm always fairly open, and sometimes somebody will come out of the blue and I go, oh, you know, how lovely to hear from you. And I feel that that's leaving it open without getting upset and challenged and getting into the debate, well, why didn't you contact me? Why have you been silent? Because that's, as you said, it's the pause that wasn't discussed, wasn't talked about. And if you know there was nothing wrong in that friendship or relationship, then you know that they just took that break because there was something going on.
So you are open and I'm closed. I like that. And I'm not closed for a negative reason. I'm just closed because you walked away and there was no explanation. And then you show up later and I'm in a different part, a different time in my life. Now, maybe that's romantic. Maybe that's more romantic than friendship. I don't know. But so you were in a relationship with someone, a romantic relationship, and they just disappeared. And now you moved on and you're with somebody else. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're focusing on your career, whatever it might be. And you know what the emotional ties, that commitment that you had put into this other thing. And now they're back again.
All my ex-boyfriends, there's not lots, but they're all good friends. I'm a good friend. I make that work, the friendships work, and that's because I'm not asking for too much. I don't want too much from them, and so then I have lots of friends and not too many enemies, you know, and that makes it just nicer for me. And it's the way that I like to leave it, and you know, it makes it much easier if you cross paths professionally and you know, at different events or platforms. I just feel that I like to be everybody's friend. And if it doesn't work for any reason, then you know it didn't work. But I always like, if I possibly can, to make a friendship work. And I would say that that's one of my key skills. I manage friendships really well. Haven't really managed some of my relationships too particularly well, but the friendships have always been amazing afterwards.
So you're very different than I am. I like that. So what about also taking a pause for health reasons from something, like taking a pause from your career, taking a pause from relationships, taking a pause from even working, for mental health reasons, for physical health reasons? I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to take a certain period of time off. Is this beneficial?
Absolutely. I would always endorse, if you weren't well, whether it was physical, whether it was emotional, whether it was depression, anxiety, to take a break so that you can heal, because you know we're all human and we're all having our human experiences, and you know we're not superhuman. It doesn't matter how much training that you've done. It doesn't matter how spiritual you are, how religious you are, and how much of a therapist you are. We're still human, having a very incredible human experience and a journey. And so even the very good and the great can not be well and can fall or hurt their back, you know, from a fall. You know, we are all individuals. And I feel that when that happens, it's actually almost deliberate. It's kind of like the universe is saying, you need to take a break, you need to stop, you need to stop working, you need to reflect, you need to rest. And so literally it can take you off your feet to take that break. And I wholly endorse taking the break.
And when someone's taking a break like that, that pause, do we set a certain amount of time aside? Because otherwise it could be endless and you could lose your empowerment and lose your determination, or maybe as a result of a prolonged amount of time, maybe you're going to come back even stronger.
Both ways, you know, it's individual to each person. I feel that depending on what the issue is, why you've needed to take the break from work, from what you're doing, you know, whether it's a physical injury, you know, you have to take the physical break and the mental break. And then I feel that in doing that, usually people reevaluate what's important to them. And I feel that when our world changed in March 2020, it gave a lot of people an enforced break to come away from their work, from the things that they were doing on an everyday basis. And it almost pushed people into reflecting and being, you know, in isolation or with their family and noticing what was important to them. So on a global scale, there was an enforced break for many, many millions, trillions of people.
Absolutely. And I think some people came out better off and some people not. I was listening to I think they're called a room now or a house, I don't know, on Clubhouse this morning. I'm back over there again. And the conversation today was about how to create income, how to be successful. And so when I think about the power of the pause, one of the traits that was shared was courage, that you need to have courage. And so it seems to me that the power of the pause and courage could be seen as completely disparate, but yet it takes courage to implement the power of the pause.
Absolutely. Totally agree with what you're saying there, because we like to fill a gap normally. We don't like silence because we start to feel uncomfortable, almost like a fear of what's the other person going to say. So we fill it. That's our normal. But when we give a pause and really stay in a pause, it makes the other person, or gives the other person, an opportunity to reflect and open up. When I was doing some training a number of months ago, we revisited the pause, and so there was a demonstration, and there was a person sitting next to me in the class, and she said, "What's going on? What's happening? Why have you stopped? What? Why are you not saying anything?" And it became uncomfortable, and I was, and they just went on with the pause, with the silence, to bring up and allow the space for the person in the demonstration to come back with answering some questions, or being able to come back with some feedback after that space of reflection. So yes, it makes some people feel very, very uncomfortable. And I actually quite like it, because it allows us to go within rather than just coming out with what we think we should say. It allows us to reflect before we just come out with what we think we should say.
Absolutely. And what I really love with all the people that I meet and interview on this platform, and even on the social media platforms, when I'm in Clubhouse, which is audio only, not a paid spokesperson, when someone's speaking, all of a sudden they stop. Other people start jumping in. Hey, are you there, Bill? You still there, Bill? And I feel as though people, and this is a general statement, so I'm just going to put the disclaimer, but when somebody has worked on themselves, when they're working on themselves, I think they incorporate the power of the pause. And when someone is jumping in, I go back to the power of listening, which you and I are both experts in that area. But you can't be listening if you're talking. And so if someone's pausing, give them that space to be able to continue thinking so they can express themselves.
I would also like to take it even further in terms of emails or messages. Sometimes we can be in the wrong state of mind, maybe if we've had a challenging day, and then we read a message and we get angry, or we get anxious, or we're upset. And when we're in a better space, or a calmer space, and we read the message or the email again, it's not as negative as what we thought it was. And so I do feel sometimes, and I deliberately do this, instead of just rushing in to respond, I usually read it and then take some time to contemplate it, and then respond appropriately. The only problem I have is sometimes I forget to respond because I've taken the pause. So that's one of my internal challenges. But I do tend to, if I feel it necessary, to take the pause, reflect, digest what the message, the email has said, and then respond accordingly. And I feel that that's much better than just racing off a response, which might not sound appropriate in the heat of the moment.
And Caroline, for anyone who knows you, they know that you're going to take, I know that about you. So I think it's almost, you have to know your audience. I know when I was in sales for decades, if someone didn't come back within 24 hours, 48 hours, many times that meant that they weren't interested. But again, that's cold calling. Yeah. And what I would say to myself is, well, I didn't bring value. If I brought value, they would get back to me at some point in time. But let me ask you this as a therapist. If someone does reach out to you, and you don't get back to them after a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, the other person probably is feeling uncomfortable. So is there a certain amount of time personally or professionally when you should get back to someone? Should.
Should. Oh, it's an
Yeah.
interesting word, isn't it? Should. I should do this now. I always feel, especially if somebody reaches out to me for therapy, for instance, and I've had such an instance this week and didn't realize that the person was from Australia. And so I said, "Oh, call me." And she said, "Are you still taking? Are you taking on new clients?" And I responded back saying, "Yes, I am. Please give me a call and let's have a conversation." And so I didn't hear anything back. And then I realized she was in Australia. So I dropped another message back saying, "Oh, I've just had a realization that you're in Australia. So we can do an audio call here on Messenger." And I've not heard anything back. Now, I'm not taking that as she's not interested. It's about timing. And so I haven't taken offense at that at all, because the person, she's reached out, she's interested in doing something, and then she's had a quick response, and now she needs time to reflect before she comes back and opens up. And so sometimes I've had people approach me, and then 6 months later, they've said, "Oh, I spoke to you a month or so ago, and it was 6 months ago." And so it's about being ready to speak, to be open, to deal with something. And that's important, to allow the space, because it might be right person, right service, not right timing.
Yes, Caroline, definitely. And for people who are watching or listening, they may be thinking, wow, this whole thing with effective communication, the power of the pause, this is a lot of work. I'm just going to check out. I'm going to- So, is there sort of like a Cliff Note version that we can share with them about the steps to take? I mean, for me, it's all about listening. That's where it starts. And listening is not just being present and not saying anything. It's not thinking anything. It's not looking around at anything. It's being completely and totally here in the space with the other person. And as you know, we have to set boundaries because we can't do that all the time. But what would you share with someone if they're interested in having more effective communication with their partner, with whomever? What's something that they can start doing?
To literally be present, what you've just described there, I would use the word being present. And let me unpack that, because it's one of those words that we hear and we're not quite sure what it means sometimes. To be present is to be fully engaged, to be totally sensorily engaged with that person, looking at them, listening to them, feeling them, being silent with them, totally being in that space, and not having your mind preoccupied with someone else, something else, or what you might be doing later on. So being totally there for that person in that space of time. It might be for an hour, it might be for 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes. And this is actually a really good segue to say, this is what meditation is. Meditation is about being fully present with the other person, and more importantly, with the self. And so being fully present just means that if you're shopping, you're shopping. You're not in your head with something else. If you're cooking, you're cooking. You're not talking and having a conversation somewhere else and then not being present with what you're doing. And so then your food tastes better. If you're in a conversation, then you're truly in that conversation. You're not tapping on the machine, on your computer. You're not checking your other messages. You're fully present, and the person will feel it, and they will feel something very incredible. I have so many people say to me, "I don't know what it is about you. I feel so relaxed." And that is because whenever somebody speaks to me, I am fully present with them. And there are times I can't speak to them, and so I don't. And I don't kind of, I hope that they don't take offense, because I take the space that I need. And if I haven't got the space to speak to them, I don't pick up the call. And then when I have the space, I do. And that's being genuinely respectful of them and me.
Thank you, Caroline. So many great points that you bring up. You know, something I just want to share as we're coming to the end already is many times we say something like if you're in a family situation or if you're in a work situation and you just happen to say something, one statement, oh, today I feel tired. And then somebody else goes, why would you be tired? This, and all of a sudden they just blurt something out. So you're still tired, right? It doesn't take away the fact that you're tired. And now something else has been put on you. What is behind that people have to, instead of let us sit with our feelings, they have to come in and say something that really has nothing to do with what you just said?
They're judgments. And there's something going on in their world, and they're putting their judgment onto you. So if somebody says, I'm tired, you know, when you literally listen with compassion and fully, then you can take that, you know, they feel that you listened, and then it moves into another conversation that's not about judging the other person. But as soon as somebody comes in and makes a call on, you know, why are you tired? You haven't done this, you haven't done that. There's just something going on in their world that makes them do that.
Yeah, I'm not tired very often, but if I am, sometimes I'll hear, but you're doing what you love. And I think, what does one have to do with another? And I started thinking about, does one have to do with another?
No, you can be tired and be really loving what you do. You just, you know, take that moment to say, oh gosh, I'm really tired, because you can be really full on when you're loving something and not actually realize how many hours that you're expending in that activity. And then when you stop, the energy stops, and then the body feels tired. You know, so I frequently, after a show, because I really enjoy my shows, and then I organize myself, I cook dinner, and then I sort myself out, you know, sort of have a shower and refresh. And I can literally just lie in the bed. I thought, I'll just lie down for a bit. And then I fall asleep. And then I wake up at some ridiculous o'clock, as Dr. JACALYN, you're aware, you know, and it's because I've renewed my energy, you know, and I don't feel it's tired as tired. It means that the body has rested and taken the break that it needed. And then it's revitalized for you to come back.
Yes. And I'm laughing back here because you're sharing how you feel about doing the show, and you do 3 shows a week. And sometimes I might have 8 shows in a day, and I'm standing for all of them. So you see, I'm standing for 8 hours. And then after the day is over, I go to the gym. And of course, I'm pushing myself like a complete psycho. And then I come back and I work again till 11 o'clock. So I say to myself, you should be tired, right?
Yeah.
You have the right to go to sleep.
There's a physicalness about that. I mean, I sit down when I do my shows, as you can see, you know, there is a physicalness about, you know, standing or sitting straight. And, you know, when you're staring into a screen with all the lights, it can be quite draining, you know. So I don't know how you do that many hours. That would really be quite hard for me to do. You know, what I can say is that it's important to recognize that it has a physicalness, that when you're not in front of the screen, that you will feel tired, that you will need to recoup physically as well as mentally.
It's so true, because when you are fully present, it's exhausting. If you are complete and you're totally engaged, you're not doing anything else, you are here looking at the screen. By the way, sitting up straight is also difficult. It's difficult to sit up straight and pay attention and then have expert answers like you have. So I really applaud you for doing that.
I'm sitting very straight.
You are. And so I'd like to leave our audience, for each of us to just give an inspiration for people to incorporate the power of the pause in their life. So all of you out there, think about whatever it is you're doing personally or professionally. How could the power of the pause change your life, or bring you value, or bring you joy? How can you incorporate it? Caroline, what's one thing that you can do to incorporate the power of the pause, and where in your life?
Oh, for me, it's literally about stopping. It's about not feeling I have to go 10,000 miles an hour all the time. When I'm focused on something, my energy just comes up and I just keep going. And then when I stop, so I feel that to stop before I get overly tired, to say, oh, right, I'm going to now take a pause and a well-earned break. But I don't tend to do that. I move on to the next thing. So I feel to take the pause and actually celebrate when something has happened, that's good.
I like that. I'm going to incorporate the power of the pause to stop beating myself up. I'm constantly beating myself up. You should have done this. You should. And again, with the should, because my to-do list is so long. And then I have maybe 6 coaches and they all are giving me other things to do. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm only one person. And I get upset with myself because I know once I implement X, Y, and Z, that it's going to benefit all of us on this platform. And it's just a matter of, I'm only one person, JACALYN. You're only one person. So give yourself a break.
That's exactly it. Give yourself a break, a pause, a stop button. And when we're not well, when we get a cold or something like that, that's the body saying, hey, take a break.
Take a break. All right. We're taking a break because Pet Psychic Amina is coming up right next for our next show, Coexistence and Sustainability. Caroline, how can people reach out to you and who would you like to contact you?
If you are feeling stressed, if you're not sleeping, if you have relationship issues, if you're struggling with any physical, emotional, mental ache and pain, reach out to me on nomorestress@live.co.uk, which is my email. I offer a free Zoom or Skype consultation for 30 minutes. Or if you're camera shy, reach out to me on phone. If you're international, +44. If you're local, put a 0 in there, 07523 120 189. I look forward to helping you bust your stress.
I love it. Bust your stress. Bust your stress. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. This show has been brought to you in part by the lovely Diane Floyd-Boehm. Thank you, Diane Floyd-Boehm, for your sponsorship. Let's take a look at one of Diane's clips, and then we will be right back with our next show. Thank you.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd-Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at dianefloydboehm.com. Visit dianefloydboehm.com. That's dianefloydboehm.com.